Hello, welcome to the Winners on the Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, international speaker, longtime coach of professional baseball coaching in 3 World Series. And I am with my guest today, Dean Wegner. Dean, how you doing, buddy?
Trent, I am doing fantastic and love your show, love what you're all about, and looking forward to a great discussion.
What about the gear, Dean? Do you like my gear today?
I know you're normally well dressed, but especially today, Trent, you are looking especially patriotic, especially American, and very supportive of our veterans.
Yeah, well, I this is a purposeful shirt today. I am wearing one of the Authentically American Dean Wegner specials here as a West Point grad here. And I am wearing one of his shirts that he was so kind to gift to me. And I love this shirt. It is super soft cotton. And you won't believe when it gets wet, it says Beat Navy across the back. It's awesome all over it. It is the most incredible shirt. I might have to demonstrate that later. So
I think we absolutely have to, Trent. And one thing I just share, that Beat Navy message doesn't appear unless you put the work in.
That's
We
right.
may do a spray demo, but that's the idea behind that technology. That hidden message, that powerful message doesn't appear unless you're putting in the work.
That's right. We got to put in the work, man. You know it, Dean. I love that. So, for those who are joining us, welcome. Before I introduce Dean, if you were watching the show for the first time and you have ever faced stiff adversity, felt like there's a better way out there, you're up against it, you need to find a better way. I think you came to the right place. Whether you are a leader, coach, athlete, business owner, looking to become elite, and you're on their journey right now, I think this is the perfect show and podcast for you. Dean Wegner, 1%er. Tell everybody, Dean, where they can find you on the social world.
So best place to go is our website, authenticallyamerican.us. That's where you can find about our brand. But I always tell everybody as well, LinkedIn, my name, Dean Wegner, Authentically American. You search any one of those, you'll find me. And I'm an open book. You will find a lot about me and my family, my history, both on our website and on our LinkedIn page.
Love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, Dean. So getting to know Dean, upstate New York guy, Messina, by the way, right on the old St. Lawrence.
Yes.
We used to deliver some product into Messina. So there's a port there for people that don't know. And then, of course, half the childhood there and then half the childhood in Pittsburgh. What was great about growing up in like New York and Pittsburgh?
I'll tell you, Trent, I'm a big sports guy, and I always highlight upstate New York, Messina, New York, where I was born, because most people would look in the map and think, isn't that Canada? I mean, that is way up there. And it is. And you and I both have a passion for sports and a specific passion for hockey, given our boys. So that's where hockey started for me, skating at age 3 and 4, playing organized hockey at 5, played all the way through growing up, played youth and travel hockey in Pittsburgh, and then played college hockey at West Point, and still playing in men's beer league now. So hockey was a big part of my life, still is today. And then Pittsburgh, we were talking about black and gold and Steelers and Penguins and Pirates. I mean, it's just a great sports town.
Well, I mean, you've been like black and gold your whole life, man, right? Like it's just ingrained in you now, right?
Uh-huh.
I think that's awesome. Pittsburgh's a great town. I did an interview with the former president, just recent former president of the Penguins, right? And he was so good in an interview. It was incredible, and just loved his feedback on growing. He was a Pittsburgh kid growing up and all these things. It was incredible, and I'm sad to see him go, leave the Penguins, but I'm sure they're in good hands. Let's talk a little bit about you real quick. Given your time, you're a West Point grad, you're giving your time. You own, of course, Authentically American, which is a branded company that makes U.S. apparel by U.S. employees. You will not see a tag, hey, U.S. flag with Honduras on the back, or Vietnam or anything else. Like, this is made in America. And you did your MBA out in Cali, out in San Bernardino. And the hockey, you had a hockey journey all the way through. This is awesome. Hey, how was hockey in San Bernardino?
So there was not a lot of hockey back then. And that was the one stop on the journey where I did not play in a men's league. It was very early in my career. I was also going to school at night. So there was no hockey then. But after that first stop, every city we've moved, and we've lived in 10 different cities, we're always playing hockey.
Yeah. Tell me the family life. You're in Nashville now, right?
Yes.
And then tell me what's family life for you? Married, kids, all that?
Well, Trent, I tell everybody my priorities in life align with 3 words. It's God, family, and country.
Nice.
And my Christian faith is first and foremost in my life, and that's where it starts. I'm on my knees every day praying, asking for God's guidance and provision, and then family, incredibly important. So my wife Kelly and I, we've been married 27 years. So we've got four amazing kids. We have two daughters, 23 and 20. We have a 17-year-old son, and we have a 12-year-old son we adopted from Ethiopia.
Well, that's awesome.
So we're a
That is
big
awesome.
sports family. We spend a lot of time together, and it's not easy, managing all
Is
four
is
kids.
I just want to know, is your Ethiopian son playing hockey?
He absolutely is. He's the best darn Ethiopian hockey player you've ever seen.
That's what is so cool about this world, right? Because, as an Ethiopian, ever heard of hockey, right? Like, probably not. But you come here, and this is a big thing, and what a great sport. This is where I love how sport connects the world, right?
Well, Trent, he is getting after, and at some point, I'm sure we'll have an opportunity. You'll be able to see him play.
Yeah.
And, there's the whole Jamaican bobsled story, and there's one dream out there. Well, what about the Ethiopian Olympic hockey team?
Oh, I
Is
love
that
it. I
possible?
love it. That is, it's incredible. That's a good story right there. That I would love to see, man. That would be incredible. So let's get into this a little bit. You come in, and why, Dean? I mean, you know me, but I ask you to come on the show. Why do you do a show like this? Winners Find a Way. And to get that for folks, we are based off a quote that I love from the Four Disciplines of Execution by Chris McChesney and Sean Covey. And Sean's a former football player at BYU, quarterback, and of the Covey fame, of course. And it says, winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win. You can appreciate this as a hockey player. Like, there's some serious statistics that we're not winning, right? End of the second period, you're down 7-1. We're not winning, right? Like, there is data that says we are losing, and it's not going the right direction. Tell me a little bit about why you come on a show like this and talk with me. Talk to the audience.
Well, one of my fundamental beliefs, Trent, is around giving back. And I want to be out there. I want to make a difference. And, you and I are just getting to know each other, but we're becoming fast friends. And you share the impact and the reach that you have. And there have been a lot of successes that I've experienced throughout my career, but there's also been a lot of challenges. There have been a lot of failures. And when you said, people have an opportunity to learn, from not only what has worked well, but probably even more so from what's not worked well. I mean, those are opportunities I want to take the time to share.
Love it. I love it. So let me take you back real quick to a kid. Like, you're a kid, whether Messina or Pittsburgh. Was there a moment like just impact to you that said, like, you know what, I'm going to go to West Point. I'm going to be a Division I hockey player, which for people in this country don't know, that is not easy. Like, Division I sports is already hard, but this is also a very limited opportunity. This is not like football that has 117 options at Division I, another X amount of options at Division II, and another 150 at Division III. Like, it just keeps going on. If you want to play football, there's an option in this country for someone who's ever played the game. And that's not hockey. You have to be pretty elite to be a Division I player.
Well, Trent, I really had two goals in high school, and you hit one of them right there. I wanted to be a Division I hockey player. And that's something I wanted to do in the worst ways. I think anyone that's playing youth hockey aspires to play at a collegiate level, aspires to play professionally. So that was one goal. But my parents also did a phenomenal job of raising me. I'm so thankful for a mom and dad that loved me and provided an incredible example. But education was always reinforced. And I said, I want to get the best darn education I can. And when the West Point Army hockey coach called and I did my due diligence and researched, I'm like, does it get any better than that? Because they have a Division I program. And that year in the college rankings, West Point was the #1 college in the US. Wow. And I thought, here's a chance to marry both of my goals, to play Division I hockey and to get an incredible education.
That is awesome. And of course, you became an Army officer in the process, because that is a requirement of graduation.
Yeah. And that gets back to the, God, family, and country. I am so thankful, Trent, for those 4 years at West Point, just the incredible history. And I actually have a copy of a poster they sent me back in the recruiting days that says, much of the history we teach was made by people we taught. And it had pictures of Eisenhower and Grant and Lee and just some incredible leaders in history that were all educated at West Point. So they went through the same experience I did. and they went on to lead our country and just do great things. And that is one things I love being a part of, is that long gray line and the incredible experiences and the challenges we all endure at West Point just brings you even closer. And then when you graduate, you know what your job is going to be, but it's even more important than a job. I mean, it's serving your country. It's serving the common defense.
Yeah, one of my heroes growing up was Roger Staubach, who went to the Naval Academy. And I love, like, hey, man, he can't go to the league. Like, he's got to spend his 2 years as an officer and do his duty, right? And we respect that and honor the admiral. He did the same thing, the basketball player, right? And it's such a different environment that people don't really understand a commitment that is made, and it's a dual service, right? Like, they paid for your education, and I'm getting value out of that, and then I'm serving back on that in return.
Well, Trent, it's interesting that you mentioned Roger Staubach, because I don't know Roger. I've never met him, but have the utmost respect, because he did serve. And then he went after serving and played in a Hall of Fame career. But one of the things I took away from him that I applied to my own journey in the military, I ended up serving 7 years active duty, but I knew after my commitment was up for flight school and West Point that I wanted to transition to business. And I went to school at night to pursue my MBA, but part of that motivation came from reading and understanding and knowing Roger Staubach's life story. Because most guys off season, what do? They're at the beach, they're at golf. I mean, they're spending time. But what did Roger do? I mean, he was there exploring his next career. He was doing everything he could. And I mean, he's been arguably even more successful after the NFL.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, most people do not know that, right? That he is he built an empire in real estate, right? Like, it is no joke. And if you were looking at from our standpoint, Dean, we really appreciate you and I are business owners, and we are entrepreneurs. If I had to put those two on a scale, and listen, he was a great Dallas Cowboy. I don't want to discount that, but he is far better and more accomplished as a business person than he was as a football player. And that will shock tons of people, because he was very accomplished as a football player, right? And look at one of the things that I really love is that, I think this year, I can't remember the number, but it was staggering that on opening day in the NFL this year, there were I think 10 players, either 21 or under, starting week 1. And here's a guy who made his commitment, who would never start a game in the NFL before 24 years of age, right? And so, he's 3-4 years of development behind any of these kids coming in now, yet a seasoned veteran. And man, it's I use one of his quotes all the time, which is there's no traffic jams along the extra mile. And that that was a visual to me, like, oh man, that's exactly right. And I lived in Chicago a long time. You'll appreciate with traffic now in Nashville that, hey, if I leave the office at 5:30, this may be whatever a commute 3x what it is in mileage, right? It's 12 miles and it's 36 minutes then, right? Like it is not going to be just the 15 minutes. It's going to be 3x, and that's going to be the standard. But if I leave at 7 o'clock, I can actually get home in 15 minutes, like I could with no traffic, right? Because no one's out working. Everyone's doing their thing now.
What I love about Roger Staubach's story is because people who have asked me and say, well, it was easy for him, the commercial real estate, because he was capitalizing his Hall of Fame career. And I'm like, you don't know the story, because just like you mentioned with our shirt, beat Navy doesn't appear without the work. I mean, that success was enabled by him, working so hard in the off season and understanding the real estate industry, and, in essence, being an intern. As a professional football player, being an intern and learning the industry, I mean, that's ultimately what proved successful. And, the only thing I'd twist on your story about the commute time, I'm home every night for family dinner, but there's no one on the road at 3 or 4 in the morning.
That's right.
Come to the office.
That's right. Yeah. So you got to figure out how you're going to do it, right? And that's the extra mile, man. And, a good friend of mine who will love this shirt, by the way, longtime strength and conditioning coach of Michigan State, who's just developed so many athletes there. He just, like, hey, the work doesn't come out till you put it in, right? You got to sweat it out. And man, when he sees that come up, he's going to love it. But he had a great quote too on our show, which was, which said that don't just go the extra mile, build your house on it. And I was like, man, I always find it like amazing to think that I know a couple, obviously, one percenters like yourself, Dean, and when I think about the people that we know in our network, and people we admire for business or for sport or for the way they lead, or pastors and different things, and the people that do that, they have a level of success, and it carries off in different ways. It carries off in ethics. It carries off in integrity. It carries off sometimes financially, right? And in business, I've often seen these one percenters house on that extra mile, and I'm like, none of them are under 8,000 square feet. I don't know. You want to build that house on the extra mile. Also, a great visual that it's not going to be small. You're going to have some nice things, So I have seen people work for it and earn it, and and I think Roger just really showed that so well.
I'll tell you, Trent, one of the favorite quotes I remember hearing back in high school, and I never was able to attribute it to somebody specific. So this would be an anonymous quote, but it was, "Success is limited only by one's will to succeed." So if you want to be successful in, the ministry, if you want to be successful in professional sports, if you want to be successful in business, no matter what walk of life, obviously you have to have some God-given talents and abilities. But if you line that up with that work ethic and that commitment and that will to succeed, I mean, it's going to happen. There's going to be some level of success you're going to experience. But oftentimes, Trent, people aren't willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
I don't think they realize what happens behind the scenes, like the Roger Staubach, what he did all those summers off season to enable that successful real estate career.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think people can fathom that, right? Like you're the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, and you're an intern at a major real estate company, going, "Hey, the Cowboys quarterback's getting me coffee." like hey, you got to start from the bottom, right? Like this guy's got to learn, and he is obviously one of the things I think you'll appreciate, Dean. I always see in athletes, and especially the best ones, they are hyper learners. They have learned to adapt and learn very quickly. And they surround themselves with people they believe can help them learn fast, who are also fast learners and really good teachers or mentors. And I think that's so important for people out there.
No doubt about it. I think that's just one of those fundamental keys in life, is that, if you want to be a student of the game, you want to be a student in business, whatever that walk of life, now more than ever with social media and the internet, I mean, you can truly invest that time, you become a world expert.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the time you didn't win. Let's talk about that time where you felt like, man, I am up against it. This is not going the right direction. Man, I should be able to figure this out. Like I went to West Point. I'm a fabulous hockey player. I have been through tough things to get to this level, and things are not going the direction that you'd hoped or and certainly envisioned, right? And
Sure.
so walk me through it and what you did about it to get yourself out.
Well, Trent, let me share one story, because this is one probably most of the listeners, most of your audience is not familiar with. And this goes back to the military. So when I graduated from West Point in 93, I went to flight school, learned how to fly helicopters, and then had a unique opportunity to attend the Army Special Forces Ranger School.
Yes.
And I didn't know it back then, Trent, but Ranger School was such great training for leading a startup. And I'll share a little bit more on why, because most people are not familiar. And there was a lot of military doctrine and tactics at Ranger School, but at its core, Ranger School is a leadership school. And what they do is deprive you of everything you think you need to survive, namely food and sleep, and then put you under incredibly stressful situations, physical, mental, emotional. And on day one, Trent, there were 340 of us. 340 of us. And I was coming from flight school. So think Top Gun, marries up with Rambo. I had no reason to be there.
Yeah.
So 340 of us on day one. And after 72 days straight, if you make it straight through, living on one meal a day and 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night, we lost over 80% of our class. There were only 70 of us standing. And I can't tell you how many times I thought, I'm not going to make it. I'm tired. I'm hungry. Why am I here? I'm an aviator. I'm a pilot. There's no reason for me to be here.
Yeah. I don't need this.
Yes, I don't need the Ranger tab on my flight school to go to have on my flight suit to have a successful career. But one of them that, was a key lesson is that you are designed by God to have so much more ability and capacity than you ever realize. And that was one of those formidable training experiences that says, I'm capable of so much more. If
Mm,
you would have asked me on day one what I was going to do for 72 days, could I make it? I would tell you absolutely not. So I think that's one lesson, that we are capable of so much more than we realize. And the second one, Trent, one of the primary reasons I made it through was a gentleman named Roy Backey. Roy Backey is a Marine Corps infantry sergeant. He was my Ranger buddy. And your Ranger buddy is instructed to never leave your side, to always have your back, to always be there with you. And there were times when I was ready to quit, when I was ready to throw it in and said, why am I even here? But Roy wouldn't have that. He was there to motivate me. He was about ready to kick me out of nowhere. And he just kept me going. And that's one of those fundamental, experiences in life that said, you know what, if I'm pursuing something challenging, don't do it on my own. I
yes.
mean, build a network, invest in people. And, we're not going to have a Ranger School like experience where it's 72 days straight, but I can't tell you the people in my network that I poured and invested time into that are willing to, in turn, invest time in me.
Yeah. I love that. Now, let me ask you a quick question on Roy. A, have you thanked him, and he knows this about you?
I absolutely. What I love, here it is. So that was 1994. So almost
Yep.
30 years later, here we
Yes.
are still in touch. You
Love
know,
it.
I,
2, how many times do you think the table were turned where you had to motivate Roy and he's going, man, this is for the birds? What am I thinking?
I will tell you, Trent, he had the same experience, and that's why I think we remain friends to this day. Because as a Marine, I mean, the uniforms, they're stripped of all medals, they're stripped of all badges. So there was going to be no recognition. And as a Marine, I mean, it's rare. I mean, it's a tribute to him to be able to go to be a Ranger and go to Ranger School. But there was no external visible motivation, which oftentimes that's what drives people in the military. I mean, you
Yeah.
get this badge, you get this patch, you get something there that's recognition. So I know there were times that he was like, why did I volunteer to do this?
Yeah.
But that's the point, because it's never 50-50. I mean, there were days where I was riding high and I had to pull Roy up, and it was opposite. I was riding low and Roy had to pull me up. And that's that idea behind that Ranger buddy. And I always believe that I want to find that Ranger buddy in life.
Yes.
And my wife never went to Ranger School, but she is my Ranger buddy in life. And, my
Wow.
leadership team right now, I couldn't imagine being on this authentically American journey without them. I mean, it just continues to apply throughout life, that concept.
That is so cool. Now, I have often heard this said in marriage. I have a bad day, she brings me up. She has a bad, I'm here to pick it up. What happens when we both are down? What happens, And I have seen God's great preservation in this, and wisdom in the fact, like there's a pastor, there's a fellow couple, there's someone there, someone at work that says, hey, listen, you guys are going to get through it. When you need someone else, there's a lifeline for you. Have you found the same?
I think that sort of aligns back to, priorities in life around God, family, and country, because, our Christian faith is founded, throughout our marriage and everything we do. And you ask what happens, we're both having a low day. I mean, that's when you run, because that's where some fireworks happen. And
Yeah.
one of the fallacies that I thought when we got married, like, this is going to be easy. Marriage is going to be easy. We're in love. I
Yeah.
mean, we're never going to fight. We're never going to have any problems.
He'll never disagree.
What I realized, if you want to have an incredible marriage, one of my favorite words is intentional. I mean,
Yes.
you need to be intentional and invest that time. And to have a successful marriage, it's not easy. It takes work.
Yeah.
Just like I'm so intentional about my business, it's the same way. I'm intentional about being a great husband. I'm not a perfect husband. I've got a long list of flaws, but I'm intentional about being a great husband. Same thing about being a dad. Being there for my family, nothing can be more important than being there for my kids. And I'm intentional about it, investing that one-on-one time. And it's not easy, because,
No.
Trent, being an entrepreneur, I mean, I literally could work 24/7, but I've got
And
to
it's
make
still
that
not
choice.
done.
Like, okay, now it's time to transition to be a dad. Now it's time to
Yeah.
have a date night with my wife. Now it's time to go ahead and coach my kids' team.
Yep. That is so good. This is a quick one before we move to the next question. And I think this is really good, Dean. What's one thing that most people don't know about you?
I guess, what do they want to know, or
Yeah,
what do I
yeah.
not want them to know? But
One thing you're willing to share. How about that?
probably a fun one. Trent, that I think that most people don't know because this was pre-internet days and it's not out there, but I was a contestant on The Price is Right. Roddy announced Dean Wegner, come on down. And there I was standing up there with Bob Barker.
That is crazy. Do you have like that videotape somewhere? Can you find that like in the archives of like you as a 25-year-old young man? I mean, you're in your dress, right? You're in your uniform.
Oh, I was wearing a uniform, and what was exhilarating and fun because I was one of those first four contestants called, if you're familiar with the show.
Yes.
And off camera, Bob's very folksy, he's very engaging. I mean, just the way you envision him on screen is just the way he is behind the screen. And after the show, he was talking, and I was one of those contestants that was there left with parting gifts. And he
Right.
was joking, Dean, when you came up here, you looked like such a winner. And here you are, stuck with all these parting gifts. And he had a little bit of fun with the audience, but I mean, that was humbling, embarrassing, but it was just an incredible, fun experience, being there on national TV.
That's cool. That's cool. That's a cool story. Let me ask you a question. You know,
Yes.
as you talk about Ranger School, you talk about your experiences. I mean, you've had a lot, man. And by the way, all before you're 25, 26 years old. I mean, there's been many more past that, but like, what do you think that superpower that separates you from others? What kind of catapults you to that 1%?
I, I believe it's something that we've talked and it's been woven through, and it was that quote around success is limited only by one's will to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this insatiable desire to know that I'm making a difference. I've got this insatiable drive to go ahead and compete and win. And it's done in a team environment, back to that Ranger buddy concept. But I think that's one of the things that Ranger School taught me, that if you are willing to put in the work, if you are willing to put in the effort and make the commitment, things are going to happen. And it's not easy, but just like the shirt and Beat Navy doesn't appear unless you get in a strong, hard workout. I mean, that's just one of those fundamental things in life. And I mean, we talked about Roger Staubach's story and what he did behind the scenes. Most people, unlike you, Trent, who are entrepreneurs, I mean, they don't know what happens, early in the morning, late at night when everyone else is sleeping, and we're, at the grindstone trying to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people, and I'm actually upset by it often when our media goes, "Hey, be an entrepreneur, like start your own business." I'm like going, man, when that Saturday 4 a.m. calls come, you are the final buck. Like it will stop with you, right? And you will be out of bed, making a repair, making your client happy, getting on a plane, whatever it takes. And I think like right now, the media is glossing over that. They're just glossing over the work, the effort, the determination, the all that, the discipline that it's going to take to stay with this thing. And the statistics don't lie, right? How many companies do fail in the first 5 years? It is a tough road.
It is. And Trent, that's why I'm so excited, because come July 14th, we as a business will officially celebrate 5 years.
Okay, that's awesome. July 14th, big celebration day. By the way, putting people in rare air, and people do not know the statistic on this, but it is less than 15% of the businesses make 5 years. And here's another statistic that most people don't know. Most people don't know that about 3.5% of all companies in America make $1 million of more in sales.
Well, we are beating both of those statistics,
Yeah.
Trent, and that's one proud thing for me, because when I
Yeah.
left the Army, I couldn't even spell entrepreneur.
Right.
Thank
Right.
goodness for spell check, because I didn't even know how to spell. But one thing I love now is, when you and I talked the very first time, when I talk to any entrepreneur and I just hear their passion and hear their, just enthusiasm for what they're pursuing, I get energy, and I just love
Yeah.
that. And I couldn't imagine life doing anything different. And nothing's been harder than what I've endured the last 5 years, but it is so incredibly rewarding to know where you start. And for us, it was a blank sheet of paper to know where we're at right now. And the next 5 years are going to be equally challenging, because half of our existence as a business has been under COVID, but it's so rewarding that
Yeah.
I just love being an entrepreneur, and I'm energized when I hear entrepreneur stories.
Yeah. Love it. Let me what's the one value, belief, action that you took, that you got a lot in those 72 days? what's one belief or value that, or an action that you finally let settle in to get you through those dark days? I mean, you had your buddy, but internally, what was the one thing that you think if someone's in this mix right now and they need a little pick me up, there's something to grab hold of? What do you think that would be?
I think a lot of it, Trent, revolves around mindset.
Yep.
And, it was reinforced at Ranger School. It started back in West Point and goes all the way back to, the way my parents raised me. Failure is not an option. I mean, if you're a Ranger and you're behind enemy lines and that's what you're trained to do and be in those situations, I mean, you are there on the front lines behind enemy lines defending your country, and failure is not an option. I
Yeah.
mean, the American public is depending on you, and that's a mindset I have right now because we're a premium apparel brand. Apparel is one of the most competitive industries out there,
Yes.
but failure is not an option. And I'm not doing this alone. Back to the whole Ranger buddy. I mean, I have an incredible team, an incredible group here that equally embraces our passion and our vision to build this iconic American brand. So I think one, it's that failure is not an option, but two, find that Ranger buddy, find that team, and do it together because there's such power in a team. And it's not just 1 + 1 = 2. I mean, you get that multiplying effect that's incredible.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. I that's awesome. And I'm reminded of that mindset in the games. Like, hey, there's a lot of times where, hey, we didn't really fail and we didn't win, but we just ran out of time. Like there's a lot of basketball games. Like, hey, the game ended and we're on our way to come back, but you know what? We'll have to take it into the next game because on this one we were going to come back, but we ran out of time. Like failure is not an option. We're gonna get back at it and figure it out. And that mindset, I think, is so powerful. And I think you're interweaving a lot of things there
Yeah.
with commitment, focus, mindset. The drive, and you kind of knowing where you want to go and setting that vision out for you and your team around you seems really important.
Oh, there's no doubt about it, Trent. I'll share one more example that combines a lot of different things because, one of the things we've been blessed with as a business is just incredible national TV exposure.
Yeah.
And over the last 3 years, we've been on national TV 17 times. And the very first time was on Fox and Friends.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got a call from the producer of Fox and Friends and they invited me to be a guest, and I learned that 2 million people were watching, I was petrified, Trent. I'm like, I've never been on national TV before. What if I screw this up?
Yeah.
I mean, that'll be it. I mean, people will never want our brand. I'll be a failure. And that first appearance didn't go off perfect, but I got a lot of positive feedback and said, Dean, you were such a natural. I mean, you were just born to be on TV. And I said, you have no idea the amount of preparation. They're like, well, what'd you spend, about 10 hours? I'm like, easily 100 hours, investing and preparing, because when you've got an opportunity to be on national TV in front of 2 million people, back to failure is not an option. So I'm not a natural. I don't have that God-given ability to be on TV, but you know what? That practice and that preparation, just go ahead and making sure that here's an opportunity that we rightfully don't deserve as a 1-year-old business to be on national TV, but we want to make the most of it.
Well, I think two things are really powerful there, Dean. One is preparation, right? Like we just can't say enough, right? I'm a huge Coach Wooden fan, right? And I love the
Yeah.
5 Ps, right? Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And man, when you think about how many people complain and go, man, there's an excuse. I had this chance and they didn't like the way I dressed, or they didn't like this, or they didn't like that. If I really looked back and I said, well, Trent, they didn't like your dress because you didn't spend the time preparing what they wanted to see, what it would have been accordingly, and I don't think we're very good at owning this was a big opportunity and I didn't get ready for it. And I think that's really critical to someone's success. What's your thought on that?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And there is so much information available. And, what people don't think is, the preparation is not narrowly focused. And to share more on that, first national media TV appearance on Fox and Friends, it wasn't just, okay, what is my brand all about? What's my story? It was understanding each and one of the hosts that were there. What's their background and what's their story? So if there's something that comes up, we can make that personal connection.
Yeah.
It's understanding who the demographics are and who the audience is to make sure that the message that I'm sharing, resonates with that. And that's one of the things that you and I talked about. Who is the audience for your show? I mean, it's business owners, it's athletes. So making sure that, what I'm tailoring, is focused to that. And it was the same way with that national TV appearance. I mean, it was broad on preparation to make sure that we're ready.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things in our country, our company in Leadershipity, I mean, we just preach this prep work, especially on people, right? Knowing like, hey, I'm going to go into a meeting with somebody and I should know something about them, right? And one of the critical things, especially like in sales, I see, and customer service, is we don't know personality styles, which are very easy, like in a disc personality style. Like, hey, if I know a little bit about them, I can pretty quickly ask a few impactful questions that will create like, how do they operate inside their business, right? And there are so many different things you can learn from that. What's their background? Where did they go to school? Where did they live? What's their family life like? All these chances to get in and connect, and people don't do their homework. I see it all the time.
And those personal relationships are so powerful. And some people have that ability just instantly to perform that chemistry. But to your point, Trey, to reinforce that, if you do your homework and understand more about their family, you understand more about their career and their history, you understand more about their hobbies and their interests, you're going to find something that really, hits a spark with them. And it's going to, trigger that emotional connection that will go ahead and just foster a great relationship.
That's awesome. Let's talk two questions. The best and worst part of your entrepreneurial journey.
Well, the best part, Trent, is tied to my insatiable desire to know that I'm making a difference.
Yep.
And most people don't know the tragic history of the apparel industry. When I graduated from West Point in 1993, to give you how rare American made is, 50% of the apparel in the US was made in the US. Today it's less than 3%. I mean, so little is made here. And Trent, you know what the tag says on your shirt? It says made in USA. That's what mine wears. I wear Authentically American or nothing at all, but most people don't realize that. So, just one national TV appearance, just, 1 year of delivering $1 million or more in revenue, I mean, is an opportunity to make a difference. But now we're going on 5 years, and I truly believe we have an opportunity to deliver on our vision to build this iconic American brand. This iconic American brand with the same recognition of a Nike or Polo or Under Armour, but have it all made here tied to our passion for creating American jobs. To me, that is incredibly rewarding. It's so exhausting, starting from where we did, but it is so rewarding and so energizing.
Awesome.
Now, that's the great part. On the flip part, I mean, I had stress in the days working for Procter and Gamble, working for Mars, but the stress of, are we going to meet payroll on Friday? Are we going to go ahead and survive? And what has exacerbated those challenges, Trent, over the last 5 years, nearly 50% of our existence as a business has been under COVID. And if you're a technology company, to work virtual, to work remote, you can do it. I mean, it's technology, it's, internet enabled, but you're wearing a product that we made in a factory in Texas. You don't operate a factory remote. You don't operate a factory virtually. So we have 11 factories across the US. Our t-shirts are made in Texas. We have amazing socks that I know you have a pair as well that are made in North Carolina. The polo and quarter zip I'm wearing, we make in California. So those are operated in person. And it just reinforced my belief in the American worker, because over the last 2 years, the American worker has stepped up in a big way and produced amazing product like what you're wearing. But the stress, Trent, of making sure, okay, I have a team and we got to make sure we meet payroll, and we've just got to find a way to make it work, because failure is not an option.
Yeah. I think one of the other things, and I'd love to just talk about this because it's important, because as an American, I recognize that we have been a melting pot for a long time. And having traveled as much as I do internationally, I have a great appreciation for coming home, right? And I've also listened to so many people out there I mean, who are really willing to go to a very crazy length of level to get an opportunity of what America offers, because their country, their standard does not offer it. And I mean extreme. And when you hear people talk about, oh, they'll give up their firstborn, that's not a joke. I mean, this is
No.
like actually people in environments that understand that I will always be held down in this environment, and there is a land of opportunity that exists. One of the things that I love is our immigration system. There's been a ton of legal immigration that serves the mercantile market. They serve into this market and came here, and this is the opportunity they've been looking for. They advance with brands like yours. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, Trent, let me tie in a personal part of our story because there's so much talk about our country right now and our flaws, and I am absolutely 100% convinced, in spite of our flaws, we absolutely live in the greatest nation in the world. And I can speak from personal experience because I mentioned our youngest son we adopted from Ethiopia. So I went to Ethiopia twice. The second time was with my then 12-year-old daughter, who was our oldest daughter. And people don't realize the extreme poverty and how fortunate we are. Even if you are, relatively speaking, at the lower end of the economic spectrum in our country, I mean, we are so blessed. We don't have an immigration problem. People aren't leaving this country. We have an immigration problem because we live truly in the greatest nation in the world. And I am so thankful for that. And that's part of our brand, being a brand that celebrates patriotism, being a brand that believes in the American worker, because just fundamentally, we live in an amazing country.
Love it. That's awesome. All right, let's talk about, you've had a lot of successes. I mean, you've won a lot. What is the best battle that you've ever conquered?
The best battle, Trent, that I've ever conquered, I'm living it right now. I would put you in that serial entrepreneur camp. I
Yeah.
mean, you have been involved with multiple businesses, and if things go as planned, you know, this will be a one-hit wonder, not because it's a wonder because of all the work, but this will be my swan song. This will be the one entrepreneurial journey, and this is truly an opportunity to make a difference, create made American jobs, and really leave a legacy by building this iconic American brand. And over the last 5 years, Trent, I can't tell you how many times I thought we were going out of business.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to have to file for bankruptcy because we're living in COVID. We were having shutdowns in our factories, customers stopped ordering, but each and every time our customers, my team, our investors stepped up and we found a way to survive. And I'm in the battles right now. I'm in the trenches, to use an old military analogy. I mean, we're in the trenches fighting it out right now. So I'm in the greatest battle of my life, but I love it when you share feedback like you did, like Dean, I just love your product. And that word is spreading and more people, but we're still in the trenches right now, and I'm in the battle of my life right now.
We're gonna get the word out on Authentically American, man. If it's not out there yet, which obviously it can always be bigger, right?
Yes.
We got to get it out there for sure, Dean. All right, so let me ask you one thing, because you've been around so many influential leaders. You've had so much exposure to leadership development between West Point and Ranger School, which is massive. I mean, by the way, two near gold standards of leadership development here in our country. Like, I mean, you could talk about it. To go through one is like already putting you in the 1%. To go through two, I can't imagine how rare that is. All right, so um what is after having that experience, most people do not fathom what that takes, right? But you get some insights about people as you drive in and as you lead other people. When other people look at themselves in the mirror, I think they miss things. What is one thing that you see in people that you don't think they see themselves when they look back at them?
I think that's a hard one, Trent, but I think what I see in people is that opportunity. And I have invested in relationships, I've invested in community, and my team right now, I think, back to that Ranger buddy analogy where when you're down, we pick each other up. And, the last 5 years, I articulated how challenging it's been, but, we've uplifted each other, we've encouraged each other. Sometimes we've yelled at each other because it's been challenging and there have been, disagreements. And discussions on how we go forward. But I see just an incredible opportunity, and we're passionate. I wish, Trent, that it wasn't just me on this call, that could have some of my team here, because what you would see is that opportunity and that passion coming through. And that's just one of those fundamental things that I believe in life. Find what you love,
Yeah,
find what you're passionate about, because then it doesn't feel like work. I mean, you are pursuing life's passion.
I do. I do. So let's talk. First of all, thank you, Dean, so much for being on the show. This is just awesome episode.
Mhm.
I enjoyed learning about a lot of things. I love the quote, success is limited only by one's willingness to succeed. It's kind of back to that will, back to that commitment. I
Mhm.
love the leadership school, man, of Ranger School. And that is, that only the few, the proud. I mean, this is really tough. Like when you
Mhm.
talk about only 20% being able to make it through,
Mhm.
it's rare air, right? And by the way, it's already tough to get one of the 340 invites, right? So it's not like that's just
Right.
anyone's open, like it's an open tryout and then someone shows up at Ranger School,
Great.
right? Then I love that, God shows we are capable. He's given us tons of
Amen.
gifts. And one of the things that I see is probably one of my most frustrating things with folks and myself, I think sometimes too, is that we've been adorned with these gifts, and then I see people not develop them or restrict them and hold them back. Like, oh, and I see this a little bit sometimes with let's say like young ladies who have this beautiful voice. I go, I don't want to sing out in front of everybody. Like, oh, you've been given this gift and you don't want to share. Like, you don't want to
Mhm.
use that. Like, hey, why do you think you were given that? Like, maybe there's
Oh
a
yeah.
reason you need to share. And it's tough. And I think that people miss that a lot. Um, I love the buddy, right? I mean, I think that's so important, the ranger buddy, but now you've got your life buddy with your wife. She's your ranger buddy now. And I think being intentional, investing in that family. My wife and I are also coming up 27 years this summer,
Right.
and very similar family with 5 kids.
Mhm.
And then the desire to make a difference. When people talk about that, that is a huge driver. And if people can really grasp, like you said, talk about like going where you feel like you have a passion for, where you can make that impact, I think that's gigantic. I mean, I think a lot of people probably miss that. The mindset all combined, amazing. The preparation that it takes to be successful, so important. And then weathering these storms, weathering COVID, weathering what's next, weathering the challenge of distribution. I know the supply chain now is a major
Oh,
challenge in most
yeah.
companies, right?
Huge challenge.
Yep. So let's wrap with a couple things. um the best way to win. Is there something that you want to share with listeners that maybe we didn't touch on yet, that, hey, this is like an absolute go-to, the best way to win is?
And I will tell you, and this has been a theme throughout, the best way to win is win together.
Mm,
And, we want to win as a family. We want to have an incredible life journey as a family. And if I was, 100% focused on building this iconic American brand and I left my family alone, that wouldn't be winning together. And it's the same way. If this journey here at Authentically American was all about me, it would be empty and ultimately it's going to fail. But the journey on what we're doing and making a difference, creating American jobs, building this iconic American brand, if we're talking again 5 years from now, Trent, it'll have nothing to do with me. It will have everything to do with the people that I've hired, the team that I've hired, and in turn who they've hired, and the team we're building. So winning together to me is what it's all about.
yeah, this is one of those things that I don't think people always recognize, right? That it takes a lot of people. And I always point to, because I'm a former tennis player too, and when you look at like Djokovic, who's been a number one for so long, and like, how many people are behind him, like a nutritionist and a coach and like a strength coach and like a
Mhm.
strategy person, like, working on his strokes and just working on his rehabilitation. There's just so many people, financial and all the things that are going into it. And I think the same thing with a race car driver. Like,
Oh,
you have a team of 20 people in the garage, like making this the most fine-tuned vehicle. Like, hey, he's just a great driver.
Yeah.
there was 212 other cars in the race, and they all got the same garage that they're working on. Like, we all got to do this as a team, and it's so important. And I know that sometimes the player or the driver get a lot of the accolades, but I think winning is a team sport. I think business is a team sport. And so I love that. Let's finish. Share your social again, Dean. Where can they find you?
So authenticallyamerican.us is the best spot to go ahead and find about our brand, find about our products, find out how we not only serve individual consumers with our B2C business, like what you're wearing, Trent, but the biggest part of our businesses, charities, other organizations. So instead of buying a Nike polo with your company logo or a Land's End for your charity, you can reach out and have an amazing brand, amazing product that's all made here in the US. So authenticallyamerican.us, or go to LinkedIn. You can connect with me and would be honored to do so.
That's awesome. All right. Please follow the show on Leadershipity YouTube channel. Rate us 5 stars. Share this episode as always. We would love to have you back. I am Trent M. Clark. You can find me on all the social media networks at Trent M. Clark or at Leadershipity. And looking forward to our upcoming ebook, The Pyramid of Leadershipity. You can ping me for that assessment on your leadership development and accountability for your leaders at trent@leadershipity.com. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Last thing. Oh, by the way, I gotta get my shirt wet. I'm not earning this, by the way. Dang it! I couldn't really come into the whole thing, with a workout, Dean, and come in just sweating it up. Like, it probably would have been appropriate, but I don't know if I would have stayed wet here the whole time. So
This
I'm
is
trying to
like
get myself
kindergarten
pretty
style
good.
show and tell. What happens when you work out?
That's right. When I bring it, this is how it looks, right? And I bring it daily. So let's talk about, you can see it, beat Navy. Look at that. Look.
I love that, Trent. And here's a funny thing tying in social, because I'm tagged in a picture almost every day. Our brand's tagged because not only have we done collegiate designs like West Point, but we've done hundreds of custom designs. And whatever you want printed from a logo, whatever you want, that hidden inspirational message. And that's what's been so fun to see people have an incredible experience with our product.
Yes.
And then me being so focused on fitness as well, to see them getting after it. And what's fun, Trent, I've had people text me in a fun way, say, Dean, doggone it, I was on the treadmill and Beat Navy wasn't appearing. So what do I have to do? Go a little faster, go a little harder.
That's right. You got to put the work in, man. Like,
That's
you're
right.
going to win. You got to put the work in. That's right. I love it. I love it. So last thing, Dean, before I let you go, when you were in that spot, when you are facing it, when you're in Ranger school, or you're, just trying to make payroll this Friday. I mean, anything that's going on, the bank doesn't see the vision, whatever it is, right? You've been up against it a few times. Is there a go-to quote, verse, or something that levels you, kind of puts you back into, hey, this is the mode I need to be in. I need to get back to point.
For me, Trent, it's less about a quote, but where I take my inspiration from. My chairman of the board, ties to my Christian faith, and I start every day off the same way. I'm on my knees in prayer. I'm in time of devotion and saying, you know what? Ultimately, I'm not in control,
Yeah.
and I'm praying for God's wisdom and God's intervention, because I am flawed. I'm a sinner, and I fall short. And I just ask for God's provision and guidance each and every day. And God's first and foremost. And I don't spend nearly as much time as I would like, but I'm very intentional. Every day starts that way in prayer, and every day ends that way before I go to bed.
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking, as because you are really that disciplined guy, and you've kind of developed that over the years, I'm sure. Um, you know, getting a focus in on playing Division 1 hockey, not easy. Doing these trials. I love thinking about us, having this conversation. I was thinking about Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those that have been trained by it. And I
Amen.
am always just that one is just a staple in my toolbox. And You know, and I think when I look at my failures, I can look at my lack of discipline, my lack of preparation around this. All those things kind of rear its head for me.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And tying in a quote, I forget the exact quote, Trent, but the whole Ranger buddy ties in with iron sharpens iron.
Yep,
And when men come together like that, when brothers and sisters come together, that's where the magic happens.
for sure. Proverbs right there. Yeah, it is. It's so good, Dean, to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Winners Find Your Way. Thank you to Dean Wegner of Authentically American. This is the gear right here. And if you want your custom shirt, you better get on authenticallyamerican.com or .us and check it out. Get your shirt made. My strength coach buddies are going to be blowing up my phone, by the way. They're all going to be
Awesome.
blowing up my phone. So I'm super excited. I'll put them in touch with Dean Wegner and they'll get it done. You're going to love this gear. I get lots of comments on when I'm at the gym working out my stuff. So thank you so much, Dean. Just a pleasure to have you here today.
Well, Trent, honored to be a guest, and I'm so thankful you and I are connected, and we'll be lifetime friends.
You bet. For everybody else, thank you for joining us on The Winners Find a Way every Friday, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific on Leadershipity YouTube channel, live, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, and you can always listen to our podcasts on all the major networks of podcasting. Please come and visit, share it, like it, and come and see us next time. Can't wait.
Thank you.